Welcome back, everybody, to the New Adolescence.
The show that's still growing up.
That's right, I'm JP.
And I'm Tyler. Well, today I'm super stoked. We are going to be continuing our series about communication, and we'll actually be talking about nonverbal communication today and why what you're saying is not always what people are hearing.
All right. But first, a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crayola. Have you been needing to add a little color to your everyday life? Well, Crayola is here for you. Crayola, everything imaginable.
Everything imaginable. When's the last time you used a Crayola product?
I drew Bella a birthday card, and I used these here, Crayola. I keep messing up that word, Crayola. What are
Colored,
these called?
colored
Colored
pencils?
pencils. Yeah, colored pencils.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Next level birthday card with Crayola colored pencils. I
It
love
was
it.
a snarky card. I drew a picture of me on the couch with all the animals and said, "Oh, you're missing out on this," because she went out of town for her birthday.
And you weren't invited.
Nope. I was the zookeeper for the weekend. We have three cats and one dog. It's unreal. I can't believe this.
You are quite the domestic man, I must say.
That's right.
The legend. All right, well let's roll on to the hot takes. JP, what do you got for me this week?
Oh gosh. Well, today's hot take is last week's hot take, but it's still hot enough that I gotta take it. It's Tim Tebow to the Jags, baby. Tim Tebow is back in football.
But not at quarterback, right?
Not at quarterback. I'm a little bit disappointed about that. But I know like teams like the Saints with Taysom Hill, they kind of combine Taysom Hill as a tight end quarterback, had different plays for him. So I'm hoping that's what the Jags are thinking. But we'll see. That he still has to make the team, and I mean, there's some young tight ends on the team that have been playing the tight end since probably high school. So it probably would feel bad to lose to a 30-year-old who's never played the position if you're trying to make a team in the NFL. So we'll see.
He's 30 years old now?
Oh gosh, Tim Tebow must be like 33.
Dang.
Yep, 33. JP is 100% right on that. You like that?
Man, I cannot wait for some real good movies to come out about Tim Tebow's life. Although I do remember I like read his autobiography way back in the day, like
So
as he
did
was
I.
first getting back into the NFL or first getting into the NFL. And I remember reading that he only wanted to play quarterback. Like he would not settle for anything less than that. And here he is
Yep.
settling for something less than that.
I think it was through my eyes, but yeah, that was what it was. Like he didn't want to play quarterback. And he said after the Patriots like that was it. That was like kind of his last kind of try.
Honestly, I feel like in the beginning, Tim Tebow was a little bit of a hothead. Like he was just unyielding in what he wanted and what he was going to try and do, and has kind of had to like settle for less than initially he wanted. Uh, but I don't know. Maybe it's been good for him as a person now that he's willing to play tight end.
Well, kudos for him for trying.
Well, so my hot take of the day is that man, music is changing so fast right now. I think fundamentally and um like at its core, a lot of music is pretty similar, but the sounds and the differences are changing like faster than they have ever changed before. Like if you were to imagine like the Beatles sitting at like in the top one position on the Billboard Hot 100 for like weeks and weeks on end, I just don't think that exists anymore. Um, and the reason I'm thinking of that is I actually listened to J. Cole's new album, The Off Season, and I'm just like listening to him, and it strikes me that this is kind of an old style of rap that he's doing. Like he he has his own style, and he has not changed very much in his career. Um, Whereas if you think about an artist like Drake, who has been extremely versatile in the way that his music sounds, like he keeps changing. And so I think J. Cole with this new album, I don't think he's going to appeal to a lot of new fans. But if you like his style, I think you'll like what he's doing there.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring that up. I feel like, yeah, J. Cole, Kanye West, Nicki Minaj just came out with an album. And a lot of their stuff just sounds, it's not changing like Drake, where Drake is at the top of the game when you think of pop music or rap music. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. I think say a lot of things about Drake, but he has adapted quite a bit. I don't think he's like the greatest rapper of all time. I don't think he's like lyrically incredible, but every new album like really captures the sound of the year that he drops it in, and that in itself is extremely impressive.
Yeah, totally. And he's relevant. He stays top of mind. And I think he just like J. Cole, I don't hear about too much as I would hear from about Drake.
No, J. Cole's like a
Uh
rapper's rapper. Like if you're a
yeah,
lyrical, if you love the lyrics, maybe that's probably when you would like get excited about J. Cole.
that's true. I'm this was my favorite style of rap music, and you let me know what years you think this happened in. My favorite genre of rap or way that they portrayed songs was when they'd have a female or pop star vocalist for the majority of the song, and then about 2.5 minutes in to 3 minutes, like this, like 75% of the song, like when it's almost done, they bring in a strong male rapper who just raps for 30 seconds, and then it's back to the chorus, and then the song's done. That was my favorite style of rap, where you just got a little sneak peek of like 30 seconds of like a strong male rapper, and that was it.
Like the one verse. Yeah, I feel like I remember that in like a few Katy Perry songs in
Hmm.
like the
California
2010s.
Girls,
Yeah.
California Girls with Snoop Dogg. That's a great example of that style of rap that JP likes.
Or honestly, Taylor Swift had like one or two of those songs back in the day too,
Hmm.
I feel like as well.
Selena Gomez, who else? Like Justin Bieber, like those type of pop stars who like have like a rapper towards like the last 25% of the song.
Just like the one verse rap.
Hmm.
I love it.
Hmm.
Here I am kind of missing like just the whole rap mob, like 10 features on someone's rap track and they all just keep going and going and going. Um,
Like DJ Khaled.
yep. Yeah, I guess that still happens, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
What's up? Do you have any more hot takes for us?
My last one is for some viewers, what's going on in AZ? Why is everyone going there? Every time I look at my Instagram, somebody new is going to AZ, and they must be handing out free hotels or free flights, because I feel like I'm missing out. I'm gonna go ahead and call this my hot take for 2021. But AZ, Arizona, for some of you that don't know, Arizona is the new millennial spring break mecca.
The
You heard it here
Mecca.
first. That's the mecca for us millennials when we want to take a break and go party, but we don't want to go to Mexico. Arizona's the place to go.
Is there anywhere specific that they're going?
Like Phoenix, Scottsdale, Sedona.
Oh gosh,
I mean,
Phoenix? Oof.
yeah, yeah, they're going. They're good. I mean, it must be warm there.
I know Scottsdale is very popular because, and I think largely because it's like set up around spring training for a lot of the Major League Baseball teams. Um, but I have not, I don't know, have not, I really have spent very little time in Arizona. I think one of my only times there was driving through on a road trip with you, actually.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, all I really know is that it's warm and sunny, so maybe that's a hot springtime place to be.
maybe
Uh,
they're like no mass, no questions. Maybe
oh,
that's what it is.
100% that is true. Actually, sorry, not 100%. Maybe they do have something going on there, but I could definitely see Arizona being pretty lax on the mask mandates and that sort of stuff. And maybe that's what
No mass, no questions.
a lot of like West Coasters and like bigger city people are looking for right now.
Yeah, that could be it.
Well, I just want to throw
Uh,
out you could come to Utah as well. The mask mandate has been lifted.
yeah, but you have to go to specific stores to get your wine and alcohol.
That's true. There are definitely rules in Utah. Yeah,
Like you're
Utah,
frowned upon.
it's kind of funny. I don't think Utah will ever be a major like spring break destination unless like your family has a cabin up in Park City because there really are just like a lot of rules and a lot of like inconvenient things of like things being closed on Sundays and Mondays. Or yeah, you have to go to the state liquor store to get anything more than 5.5% alcohol by volume. But I don't know. I think we might see some changes in Utah in the next decade or so, in terms of like
I hope so.
what is, in terms of what's allowed or not. Or maybe they'll keep it inconvenient to keep the crowds out. So far, Utah has not exploded and developed a bunch of traffic like a lot of other growing cities have. Um, so we'll see kind of how
Okay.
that goes.
Yep.
Well, here today we are going to be talking a little bit about how we communicate subconsciously. And I think one of the stories or studies that I always come back to is this one that I heard about when I was in college, um, regarding subconscious communication and nonverbal communication and just the ways that our bodies interact with each other without us even recognizing it mentally. There was this study that came out where a couple of university students, they found someone who was highly symmetrical, meaning like their left and right sides were very similar, which is like a good indicator of no genetic deformities. And they had that person wear a shirt, and then they had someone who was like kind of like an average amount of symmetrical also wear a shirt. And then they gave these shirts to a bunch of females and had them smell the shirts and determine which one smelled more attractive. And like very consistently, the more symmetrical person's shirt was perceived as more attractive. And that blew my mind because it just told me there's so much happening so much happening behind the scenes in communication that I have no idea about.
Yeah, that's an interesting study because I feel like in college, the one thing that sticks out for me, kind of similar to this, is that humans make when you meet somebody new or you see someone for the first time, you make a judgment about that person like under like a second, like a fraction of a second just based off of initial look. So it could be, I know they're not seeing the person, but maybe there's like a smell that the brain just picks up on this person's more symmetrical because I can kind of tell like if the person is more symmetrical, however small or slight that may be, and you probably don't even think about it, but maybe just your brain just is like the way you look at somebody.
Well, I think
Like
honestly
I can so see that.
there are like hundreds and hundreds of little cues that we are programmed to process without even realizing it. Like everything from like the way that they're walking to their posture to, what direction are they looking at, or do they have RBF, or like I think there's a million different things that could set us off and be like, oh, that's not a person that I have a positive feeling about right now. Um, and
A
equally, I
lot of
think
it's
they're
nonverbal
right.
because they don't even say anything. You
Yeah,
you make the judgment and they don't say anything. Like they haven't said a word to you yet.
right, right. And so I think during this podcast, we'll focus a little bit more on the things that we can change, like things like symmetry, right? We're kind of born with. I suppose you could probably do plastic surgery or something to change that. I'm not sure how that would affect the study, if your smell would still be more attractive after that. But um, these things that feel like largely instinctive uh, actually can be trained. Like I'm reading this book right now called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, and it is all about how basically people are born with this other set of intelligence that isn't your IQ, but maybe is equally or more important than that, and that's your emotional intelligence. And like very very many facets of your emotional intelligence can actually be trained so that you can understand yourself and other people better. Um, so I kind of want to ask the question, like, I mean, what's the point of learning about these things? Um, if they all kind of feel instinctive, right? But what's the point of being able to change like how you're perceived right away, or how you interact with people right away, or what you see when you look at them right away, when you look at the cues that they're giving off? And I think
That,
what?
that's a great question, Tyler.
Thanks, JP.
You know, if I don't have an answer, but I definitely think When someone tells me that men mature takes men longer to mature than women, I think like if I had known to like kind of learn, how to be more emotionally intelligent, I feel like I could have a jump start on just my relationships and just what I was doing with my life and how I viewed life. So I think it's true that it took at least me longer to mature than others, and I would definitely put a high emphasis on emotional intelligence, that and what Daniel Goleman was saying about that being, if not more important than IQ.
Yeah, highly recommend that book. Super interesting. But yeah, I mean, just looking at these nonverbal communication styles or nonverbal communication things, like they can play a lot of different roles and kind of in conjunction with what we're actually saying verbally. And I have this little list of 5 different things like that you could end up accomplishing, whether you mean to or not, with the way that you're carrying yourself. Um, the first one being repetition, like as you if your body is saying the same thing that your words are saying, that often strengthens the message that you're trying to make verbally. Or on the other hand, it could contradict it. Like if you are trying to say something like you're so happy and you have a frown on your face, as a really simple example, it totally contradicts what you're trying to convey.
Or
Um,
like you saying you're listening, but you're looking at your phone.
yeah, exactly. 100%. I get in trouble for that one quite a bit. Um, it can also substitute for a verbal message. And like just being like it might not be contradicting it, but it might be saying something different than what you're actually saying verbally. It can also complement it and strengthen what you're trying to say. I think this is a really key tool for a lot of public speakers. Just learning how to harness your body and have it complement and reinforce the things that you're trying to say while you're speaking to others. Um, and then accenting it, like which is kind of complementing but a little more nuanced. Like for example, if you are trying to underline the importance of your message, doing something like pounding on the table and like just highlighting that that's a very important moment of what you're saying right there.
That's like a whoa, this guy means business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, there's like so many different ways that these um, nonverbal cues kind of play into what you're actually saying. Uh, and I think thing that I, one thing that, like one example that just kind of threw me for a loop when I first heard it was just something as simple as your eyes dilating. Like men are actually programmed to like receive dopamine, like to release dopamine in their brains when a woman that they find attractive looks in their direction, basically. Which I'm like, that actually is so me with my wife. I'm like, I don't know why it's so important to me for her to like look at me when she's saying something to me, and it actually like releases dopamine in my mind when when she's looking at me, which is so weird.
Wow, Tyler, you're the hot stuff.
I know. What's up with that? Um, so I kind of wanted to run us through a couple of examples of this stuff. Uh,
Let's do it.
and these are things that you can focus on as you are trying to read people, or I think things that you can focus on as you're trying to convey messages to people. Um, so there's a couple of nonverbal cues here to look for, I think. Uh, the first one is eye contact, and going over this episode beforehand, JP reminded me that there's kind of a subtle thing, like if you that I don't know if that it's widely believed, but it is kind of like urban legend, which is that if you're looking up and to the right, that would indicate that you're lying, or
Yeah,
or if you avoid eye contact, that can also sometimes indicate that you're lying.
I've read from a few previous FBI agents that's something that's like they use as a reference. It's not 100% accurate, but it is something they can use.
Yeah,
Also, like I don't know if I sweat when I lie, but like I can definitely see like if someone's blushing and they're lying, like they're kind of embarrassed.
Yeah,
Like I can see that being real. But so they say there's small human tics that people do that are nonverbal, which is crazy, but it's that's just how we are. We don't know it, but we communicate nonverbally so much.
right. Right. And I think, I mean, the kind of the craziest thing is like, even when you know about these things, like it has always been kind of difficult for me to maintain eye contact as I talk to people. Like that is just not a super comfortable thing for me. But I'm like, oh, I want to convey that I'm telling the truth, so I want to like look at your eyes. Um, but even that is like my instinct is not to do that a lot of the time, uh, which is kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I often break eye contact if I don't want to continue the conversation, or if sometimes I find myself like walking the dog and someone comes by and says hi and says hello to the dog, and I don't even remember what they look like. I didn't even look at them. I have no idea who that could have been.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a totally different point was that is that people interact totally different with dogs than they do with other people.
Oh, they skip right over me half the time. It's like, all right, like, don't say hi to me. I'm having a great day. Thank you.
Like, isn't that kind of weird that you would say hi to a dog before you would say hi to its owner, even though the owner is like 3 feet away?
It's the power of a pet. Seriously. I think they work miracles for people that need like emotional support animals, or they just something that just brightens their day. It's crazy. Maybe that's their release of dopamine. Similar to when a girl looks at you, Tyler.
Not just any girl, JP.
Oh yeah, sorry. Colleen.
And then another nonverbal cue that I think is kind of an interesting one, which is proximity. Like if you are meeting someone for the first time, or if you're an acquaintance with someone, and you like move towards them a little bit in a conversation, and then they get uncomfortable and back away from you, like that can be an indicator that maybe you thought it was a closer relationship than they perceive it as, or maybe they're just not as comfortable with you as you are with them.
Yeah. I remember when I sold solar power. I'm a big sales guy. And the thing they told us to do is like when you knock on somebody's door, take a step back and turn your shoulders so you're like facing like to the side. So in front of you is like their garden, like so you're facing to the side, and so when they see you, they're talking to your shoulder at first, and that's like a way to like show like you're not threatening or you're not because it's weird to knock on someone's door, so it's like a less threatening way to knock on the door and a more friendly approach. That's kind of interesting.
That is
It's a
interesting.
little
That's
tidbit that I learned.
I feel like that is kind of a like saying that you're not, aggressively selling them something. Like you're being very passive with your body language there. And actually like that channels well into our next nonverbal cue, which is foot positioning. Um, like you can tell a lot about what a person is trying to do by their foot position. Which is it's kind of interesting because like in normal interactions, I think if someone is facing directly towards you, right, like that's the most intentional, like that is the most indicative of them wanting to be a part of that conversation. But like in sales, if you're facing directly at someone and just making a ton of eye contact with them, like that can be a little bit off-putting because of how aggressive it is.
Yeah, you kind of feel like you're trapped, or well, I can't walk around this person. I kind of am stuck here to hear this person out, and then I can get around,
Yeah,
or I have to turn and run.
yeah.
So
And this is one I feel like I catch myself a lot of the time, like mid conversation, realizing that my feet are turned away, like I'm going to be walking away from someone. And then I kind of question myself whether I should, you know, direct attention to my feet by actually facing towards the person or just leave them as they are. Um, and sometimes it's actually like a realization for me that I actually don't really want to be in that conversation anymore. Like I'm trying to exit the conversation even though I know it's not really the polite thing to do. So I kind of have to catch myself doing stuff like that.
I'm gonna have to think about that over this week and see. I don't think I can remember exactly where my feet are when I'm talking to. I'd be interested to see, why are my feet that direction, or why do I do it this way if it's somebody I know?
Yeah, and I think one of my problems is I sort of overanalyze these things in my own life, and it actually can be a bit distracting from the conversation itself. Um, but if you can, I think if you can learn to understand them without having to devote too much thought power to them, when they become kind of an effective tool for understanding where the other party is at in the conversation and understanding the message that you're conveying to them.
I've got an example of a nonverbal cue that's kind of interesting. Is once I was running with Bella in Seattle and Macklemore, who lives in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. He was right next to us at a stoplight. Him and his family and his daughter. And I remember because I'm my loud personality, I really, really wanted to say, "What's up, Macklemore?" and like try and give him a high five. But for some reason I didn't, and we just had like a non-verbal cue of like we looked each other in the eyes and like I'm pretty sure he knew what I wanted to, or he must have been reading my it's just that weird like he's looking at me, he knows I know he knows that he knows that he's been made, but I didn't do anything. I let it go. And I just wonder like that's like another nonverbal cue. It's like, okay, you've made me, dude, don't make a scene. And I didn't do it, but it could have went in your direction.
Do you
And
feel
I don't
like,
know, maybe
did he stare you down? Like, was he like, don't do it?
he didn't do any like shaking the heads, but it was just more like a look in the eye, and then like is a long enough gaze where it's like, okay, you definitely know who I am, and I see you looking at me.
Yeah.
It's not just like a who's this guy next to me or like a quick glance. It's definitely like you make eye contact. It's kind of similar to like if I'm letting a car go in front of me, that kind of reaction, like thank you or like a nod or a wave, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe you saw Macklemore and you looked him right in the eye.
We were right, like I could reach out and touch his shoulder. That's how close I was to him. But the thing is, I didn't even know it was Mac. Bella told me it was Macklemore. So
What?
that's another thing. Like I don't make eye contact with enough people that I would have never saw him. I just would have figured he's just some other guy, dad with his daughter, and I'm just doing my thing. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so,
I mean, honestly, eye contact with strangers is kind of an aggressive thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't blame anyone for saying like, man, I walked past someone and didn't even realize what they looked like or anything because especially right now, like if you were to get on like a city bus or something, maybe I don't know. I actually don't know what city buses feel like right now. Probably even more isolated in terms of how people are interacting after COVID. But like in normal times, like if you were to get on a city bus and just be like looking around at people, that's kind of a weird off-putting thing for a lot of people, and I think is why a lot of people kind of bury themselves into their phones, like not just for entertainment, but like socially, it makes kind of the environment for everyone else feel more comfortable. And for yourself, like you feel sort of odd if you're the one person who's looking around at everyone.
Exactly. Like imagine you and Colleen are in the club and she's like, Tyler, hold my purse. I got to go use the bathroom. What are you doing in that position? Most people are probably looking at their phone and they're like mindlessly scrolling Instagram, like, oh, look at me. I'm looking at all this stuff. Because I do it all the time where I'm like, man, I need to like look at my phone. But sometimes I like, don't touch your phone, JP. Just hang out, look around. I don't know, go talk to someone. Like, just go do something else besides sit here like and look down at your phone in like this club or grocery store or wherever I'm at.
Dude, I bet you're always in the club. Yeah, like what message does that send if you're looking at your phone versus like if you're just observing the world around you?
You could get the waiter that goes by you, hey, are you being helped? Or you could get the waiter that looks at you, oh, he's looking at his phone, I'm safe, I don't have to talk to him, and just walk by you.
It almost feels like a social defense mechanism that you're saying like, yeah, I'm like not even really here right now. Like don't interact with me.
Yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, that's like people look at their phone and it's like it's definitely like a defense mechanism to be like, I'm invisible. I'm not really here, but I'm here.
And I feel like
Yeah.
phones have changed like very drastically in the last 10 or 15 years how people interact in social situations. Like even me, just like sitting around with my friends, it is extremely common, if not always, that someone like in a group setting is going to be looking at their phone. Uh, which sometimes bothers me, but it seems to me like not too many people are other people are bothered by that.
Yeah, it's that's crazy. Yeah, people are on their phone. I'm on my phone. sometimes I'm playing a video game on my phone when I'm with people. It's crazy the things that I do that I don't think about, and I think that's just part of life. Like when I got my COVID vaccine, they have you sit in the chair for 15 minutes. What do you think everybody was doing for 15 minutes? Every person was on their phone. There might have been two people. One person was writing in like a notebook or a planner, it looked like, and one person was reading. And I was like, those two people are doing it right, baby. The rest of y'all are just looking at your phones. It's crazy. Like, I just was like, man, if this was like 15 years ago, this would not look like this. Like, we'd probably all be talking to each other or something, you know? We wouldn't have a phone to look at.
Right. Like I feel like previously, I mean, like when I was kind of growing up and a little bit younger, the place that I felt like the most like weird about talking to people was sitting next to them on the airplane because like very vividly people give nonverbal cues like they don't want to speak very much on the air like if you're sitting next to them on the airplane. And now I think those nonverbal cues have kind of bled out into a lot of other places, right? Like I used to talk to my Uber driver all the time, you know? And now like I give off the vibe that I don't want to be in a conversation. I think they'll talk to me if I like want to if I start talking to them, but a lot of times they don't really like want to talk the same way that a lot of my Uber drivers were talking previously.
If you're an Uber driver, you better listen up. I love that you brought this up, Tyler. If an Uber driver greets me and starts a conversation or has a conversation with me, they get a great tip. If they don't, say see ya, dude.
But I think that's really
Because
abnormal.
it's such that's why it's abnormal. I'm like, wow, like care so much about your job as an Uber driver. Like this is like pick up someone silently and move on with your life. Like you say hi or you let me say hi to you and talk to me for a little bit. Like I'm like, that's great. Like you are like being a human. Like that's like just like the airplane. Not on the airplane I don't talk to people, I feel bad, but it's loud, so don't talk to me. But like on in the Uber driver, it's sometimes it's so silent there. I'm like, dude, we're just two people that are never gonna engage in life here. Like you could be like Macklemore for all I know. How am I supposed to know? Like it's just weird to me. I hate that.
And I think I think the problem is it's more of a systemic thing than it is like just that Uber driver. Like they encounter dozens of people every day that they work. And I think the vast majority of those people
Don't
don't want to
talk to them.
speak to them, right? Like
So
it's
weird.
it's like tiring to talk to someone or uncomfortable or something. But for whatever reason, like most people, I think get into a car and just want to be driven around as like a means to an end, right? Which
Yeah.
I think is why autonomous vehicles will replace Uber drivers in the next 10 years.
They might as well. I mean, they're not talking to anyone in there anyways. Yeah, that's crazy to think. But yeah, that's another one. The airplane thing, that kills me. I wish I would be more open to talking to airplane, but I just don't.
Dude,
Even though I'm like literally sitting on them.
yep, my grandma, every time she gets off on an airplane, she has made a new friend. And like literally to the point where she will like go visit them or like call them later on. And it's just like my grandma's out there like 86 and talking up some like 30-year-old lady and they're just getting along famously and are friends afterwards and it just blows my mind every time because I don't know anyone in our generation who is similar to
It's a
that.
lost art. Like we are on this planet for maybe 100 years, and there's so many different people. Like the world's so big, you never know like what that person's story is or where they're going. I just love the idea of like when we get on the airplane, what brought this person to this point in their life that I am just by chance right there. There's a movie on that with Matt Damon. I forget what it's called. Um, it's not Inception. Oh, the Adjustment Bureau or something like that. But basically, it was a movie where these people who worked for God, their only job was to stop chance. And so when something happened that happened by chance, by luck, like something they couldn't because they controlled how the world worked and how like what people did every day and what their jobs were, like you had a follower. And there's thing called chance where you just randomly meet someone where their paths collide and they can go one of two ways, but they're supposed to go separate. But Matt Damon liked this girl so much that he was like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to see her again. And he happened to be running for mayor in New York. So he had enough power to like make billboards and say, "I'm Matt Damon. I met you on the bus. Here's my number." But the whole thing of the bureau or whatever, the people that work for God, their job was to make sure they never met again. But he did everything in his power to try and meet her. And the chance that helped him was that the person that follows Matt Damon was sleeping like the morning he was supposed to not let them meet. And so that was the chance encounter where they met. And that's like kind of set everything up. And I was like, wow, that's crazy that like just the movie just blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there are certain people who have kind of mastered this element of finding every chance encounter that they can and like creating really incredible stories out of it. Like I think if you remember back in like season one when our friend Jeremy Giampaoli was on the show, he talked a little bit about creating his own luck and just remaining optimistic in every situation. And of all the
Hmm.
people I know, he is the one who just makes friends with strangers the most, and also has really wild stories about it because of that.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing to be like that and be so open and be so able to make a connection with someone that you don't necessarily know. It's a dying art.
So running it all the way back to nonverbal cues, that was a huge tangent. If you want to talk to more people on the airplane, maybe you need to send more nonverbal cues that you are actually like them and want to be in a conversation with them. And one of my favorite nonverbal cues, actually, which is a pretty key one, like pretty well studied one, is this idea of mirroring, which is basically matching posture, body position, tone of voice with the person that you're interacting with. And this means that you are extremely engaged in the conversation with them or the interaction with them. Um, so, like, if you are talking to someone and that person is really excited, if you mirror them and equally become like sound very excited, or like move your hands in a similar way, or face them head on, like when they're facing you head on, like you become a much more likable person to them, and that interaction becomes a much more positive one for them.
That's right.
That's right. A little bit difficult to do in COVID times on the Zoom call, but I'm wondering if people will adjust back to normal as things start opening up a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that.
Um, And I guess one of the last things I wanted to talk about was sometimes when people think about like communication styles, they think about like the FBI or the CIA because these are people who have received a ton of training in reading people and understanding them. Um, and I was reading a little bit about how the FBI kind of interrogates people or observes people. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was uh, as the FBI is communicating with someone, they create a baseline of their communications, right? They understand what is a normal communication style for this person because everyone is a little bit different, right? Just because someone is acting a little bit suspect, like they might always act that way, honestly, and what they're saying right now is no different than normal. But if you create a baseline and understand what this person is like normally, and then they deviate from that, then you kind of know something is up, right? Like if you understand what a good
Yeah.
interaction looks like with one of your friends, and then they deviate with from that, you might that might be an opportunity for you to recognize that something is a little bit off with that interaction.
Yeah, it's similar to how like if you have a spouse or a girlfriend, like you can tell when they're something's off with their mood or their acting because you see them so much, you know the baseline, you know their mannerisms. So the FBI kind of repeats that
Hmm.
or recreates that.
Yes. And I wanted to uh, just share a quote from somebody who's a little more intelligent than myself. This is from that book, Emotional Intelligence, that I've been reading. Author is Daniel Goleman. Uh, and he says that people's emotions are rarely put into words. Far more often, they are expressed through our cues, through other cues. The key to intuiting another's feelings is in the ability to read nonverbal channels, tone of voice, gesture, facial expressions, and the like. And kind of to circle back to like, what's the point of of changing? Like, what's the point of learning about these things if they're largely instinctive? Like, these are all things that we can become better at. Like, understanding different nonverbal cues from people makes us a stronger communicator, and understanding the nonverbal cues that we give also makes us a stronger communicator.
I like it.
I love it. And so next time you're on a sale, JP, make sure you're mirroring that person.
I like that. Definitely nonverbal cues is something I try and remember. I don't always think about it, but it's definitely something to go to go investigate more and to remember.
And I
And
think
if
that
you need a new movie, Tyler,
yeah,
the Adjustment Bureau,
I'll check it out.
that's a good movie.
And honestly, I think that's one of the beauties of nonverbal communication is that a lot of people don't really recognize them as things that are going on, or that things that people put thought into. But the reality is, like, these are things that we can improve on, that we can change our communication style in. And I think, like, if you are familiar with like politicians and like the ways that people perceive politicians, a lot of them seem like very stony faced, like not very, not doing much with their nonverbal cues, but they're saying so many things, which makes them feel very dishonest because they're not applying their nonverbal cues to these to what they're saying.
Hmm. Makes sense. Well, Tyler, this has been a wonderful episode. Next week we've got another big topic. Uh, Everyone has the ability to broadcast to the world, but is that okay?
Yeah, baby. Let's see. I mean, we're out here making a podcast. We'll see if we determine that it's actually okay that people are listening to us and we're trying to be heard by the whole internet right now.
That's right. Our voices are enshrined on the internet, but also other people, influencers, big or small, everyone has a brand or a thing that they're portraying. Um, is it okay? We'll take a look next week.
JP, always a pleasure. Thanks for wrapping it up
Th-
for us.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. And we've been the new adolescents. We'd love to hear from you guys and
Absolutely.
gals.
Send us a
Big.
DM or comments on
s-
our Instagram posts.
That's right. Give us some love. We appreciate you guys listening. You diehards.
All right, everyone, until next time, take care.
And we're out of here. Enjoy Break Even by the script.